Behind the Shades.
So when you began to realize that, and maybe many women experience this, you're more than the title of a wife, title of a mother. You are still a person before all of these situations arise in your life, right? So
Correct.
how did you come to the conclusion that you are more than these titles? You are a person outside of it.
For me, it took over 48 years. I spent many years and many situations just doing what needed done. I was Robert's wife for many years. I was the kid's mom for 18 plus years. And I, I never realized or evaluated, why don't they just call me Noelle? Who is Noelle? I I spent many years just doing what I was told and what needed to be done. Many of my jobs were because somebody needed to do it. I can do that. So yeah, let's jump in. But is that the best use of my time and skills? Maybe, maybe not. And after my surgery, I spent about 6 months recovering and spent some time writing and reading and just thinking through who I am and my story and realizing that I do have a story that's worth telling because nobody else has lived the same 50 years I've lived. May have had some of the similar experiences, but not the exact same 50 years. And that's me. That's my uniqueness. And everybody has a unique story. Everybody has a story that's worth telling. And when I realized that my story was a story and it was more than just, yeah, that's just me, it's changed my life. And I love sharing it and I love talking to people. And when you see people turn those light bulbs on and see that, oh, that means something. Yeah, I am a person. I could do that, or whatever it is for them. It's so heartwarming.
Do you feel sometimes that we get lost in the titles and forget how we were before they were in some cases placed on us, or that we've taken ownership of those titles, like when you become a wife or a husband or a mother or a father?
Very, very much so. We take on those titles, we take on those roles, and it it incrementally changes us and our focus, and we over time forget what we wanted to do. So I like to ask people, what did you want to do when you grew up? What was your dream job? Or what were you doing when you were 12? What was it that you enjoyed? And we often forget what we were doing when in the preteens before we became a teenager. For me, I wanted to be a stewardess is what I thought, but that turns into what I did do was be a missionary, and I got to travel as a pastor's wife and as a missionary. We traveled the world, and it was different. It's not traveling into the tourist parts of town. We got to go in some back doors and meet the people that have lived there for years and see how life really is in those countries. And the other part of me wanted to write. I actually got a typewriter as a kid. I had forgotten that for many, many, many years. And now that I'm processing this, I think back as a child, I had a typewriter and was sitting on the living room couch typing. What little kid, back in the 80s wanted to type? It was just, to me, it just seems weird. Just an oddity that was me. And now that I love, realize I love writing, it makes sense. That's what I wanted to do, is I wanted to put my fingers to the keyboard.
And now we're in an age where typing is like a lost skill, right?
It
It's
is.
like, it's similar to, let's say, how many people born in the last 20 years can read an analog clock? They'll look at it and be like, oh my God, what do those signs mean? It's all digital now, right? Who
Right.
remembers dial-up internet?
Yeah, the phones with the cords on them,
Yeah, there you go. Or the rotary phones,
or cassette tapes.
cassette tapes, right? For those who are trying to say they're aging themselves, we're old, but we're proud of our age, right?
Of course. Yep.
So when you had the life changing surgery, was that the point in your life where you were more reflective and you're thinking, what did I like as a kid? What did I like as a teenager? What was my dream job? Because these are conversations I'm pretty sure everyone has had at one point, but for some reason they stop having as they get older.
They do. And when I spent 13 days in the hospital and 6 months recovering. And I think it was when I got back to work and things just weren't the same. I started going through some worksheets and books and stuff to just think about, who am I? Where do I want to go from here? Because it just didn't feel right. I wasn't lining up. The alignment, the energy levels weren't right, and something was just off. It has taken me, at least a year, if not more, 18 months to evaluate and think through all of these things and realize that that job situation had changed enough in the last couple of years that it wasn't fitting. It wasn't giving me the enjoyment and fulfillment that something of that much time in your life should give you. And I think we do have a job. We have roles in a workplace. We have to make money to survive and do anything in this world, and money is very important. But what we do in that job has to line up with who we are, or our energy isn't fulfilling. We don't get that enjoyment. We don't understand what's off, but something is just off in our core.
What about the women out there who are saying, Noelle, I don't know how to find that version of me? How do you help them rediscover who they are or who they were?
Yeah, it's a process, and it does take some time, but we want to look at what are your values? What matters most? What's important to you, and who you are. Don't worry about your husband, your kids, all of that, you personally. And it's hard to take that thought process and actually turn off all those things that we need to do, all the things that our husband and our kids want us to do, and who we've become in the family environment, to think about us. I think that's one of the hardest things for me, is what do I want separate from everything else? It's a really hard question to think about. We need to look at who am I? What is my identity personally? What am I passionate about? What do I like to do for me, not for the kids, not for hubby? What do I like to do?